It's safe to say that being a Memon is a paradoxical identity. The three stereotypical elements famous for Memon is they do business, they are stingy, they are philanthropists, great philanthropists. The first two go hand in hand. Stingy and philanthropy are pole opposites. Why, despite being rich, we find them to be great philanthropists? Around the world, the opposite is true. But what is it that makes them great? They do business. It's a common and a normal activity done by other ethnicities as well. What's so special about it? It's said that if Memons end up in paradise, then they'll rent their home in paradise for a home cheaper in hell. Their life starts on opportunity cost and ends on opportunity cost. If you propose a Memon child to study, he'll propose an investment better than education. They have only one purpose in life, and that is business and business. They are stingy. They don't spend until it's upon them. They have only one lens to view the world, and that is how to save money on every possible end. They bargain in every possible situation in life. If it involves money flowing out, then by default the answer is negative. If it's flowing in, then the answer is positive. It is said that once a Memon jumped off a roof to suicide and saw her wife cooking. His last words were, "Don't cook for me, I won't be eating in today." They are great philanthropists. Most of the charity houses and welfare organizations are by Memons. Arguably, it could be a pet project by the rich people. That's quite common around the world. But that doesn't hold much truth over here, because there are Memons like Abdul Sattar Eidi who had nothing to do with the business community but devoted their entire life to serving Pakistan. However, there is a correlation between being rich and donating, but again, their level of donations are insane. Many people like them in the business community exist outside their ethnicity, but we haven't seen their type of donations. There is an entire area in Karachi named Husainabad, which was given out to the poor people by Hussein Ibrahim Jamal. Similarly, there are numerous examples like this all around Pakistan. There isn't much literature on Memons, as their quest for profit maximization kept them migrating, and maybe historians couldn't catch up with them, or historians were too slow to catch up with them because they were always migrating, or historians could never convince a Memon to talk for free. Whatever the reasons may be, nobody knows the answer to this. So use your wild imagination to fill in the gap. Memons from their ancestral lineage were Hindus. The Memon community came into being in the 14th to 15th century. The Muslim missionary Sayyid Yusufuddin, a descendant of the famous Baghdad theologian of 12th century Abdul Qadir Jilani, is regarded as its founder. According to one version, in 1422 and another in 1350, Yusuf Sindhi spent some time in India in order to preach Islam there. According to the legend, he succeeded in converting to Islam 700 families from the Hindu commercial caste of Lohan in Kathiawar, Kutch, and southern Sindh, and also apparently a certain number of people from other local Hindu castes, chiefly the commercial ones. What we know is from the circled region by today, Memons were made. Yusuf Sindhi called the new converts Momins, the Orthodox, from which later on was derived the name Memons. Memons subscribed to the Sunni sect when they converted to Islam. It was not easy for the Memons to shake off their Hindu identity that they had before the 14th century. Until 1940, some Memons from Kutch and Kathiawar conformed not to the Muslim but to the Hindu common law of commercial caste of the Lohanas on questions of property inheritance. The Memons of Kutch preserved their caste panchayats, which head their jamaats, and one of the principal subdivisions of the Memon Halais inherited from the Lohan Hindus the traditional institute of Mukhi, the chief of the caste community, who is also its treasurer. The Mukhis do not, however, mix into religious affairs, which are under the jurisdiction of Muslim sheikhs and peers revered by the Memon. The Memons have been long famous in India as very enterprising tradesmen. Merchants from their community have engaged in trade with the most varied goods on land and sea. In the 16th and the 17th centuries, they settled throughout all of Gujarat and set up a number of factories on the Malabar coast. The Memon merchants played a particularly important role in the trade of the city of Surat, which was at that time the leading trade center of western India. From the end of 18th century and the first quarter of 19th, a mass settlement of Memons began throughout India, and a few decades later they also immigrated beyond its border, chiefly to the countries of the Indian Ocean basin. By the end of 19th century, rich communities of Memons were appearing in the ports of Red Sea and the Persian Gulf, in Ceylon and Burma, and in East and South Africa. To cut it short, Memon's migration pattern is solely based on profit. If it is profitable to operate on Mars, before you can even end this sentence, you will find a Memon there. Apparently, among the settlements of Memon outside the borders of their native land in northern Gujarat, they started out a new practice where a representative was sent to an alien land to identify the profitability of different ventures. The individual was hired by a joint stock company. Each member of such a company was solely operating in an alien land on behalf of the company. The individual had full autonomy to proceed with any action. When the individual returned to his homeland, he used to share his own experience of business and provide different business prospects as well. This type of practice allowed their exponential growth around the globe and allowed them to operate in different localities at the same time as well. Their territory of business expands from South Africa to China by this strategy alone. Their growth to new areas required them to have settlements in all business areas. As early as the colonial period, a number of major manufacturers, ship owners, and merchants with control over millions in capital came from among the Memons. Even before the division of India in 1947, some of the representatives of the Memon leaders were connected with English monopolistic capital and took a direct part in forming the Indian monopolies. Among them were contemporary Pakistan's monopolists, the Adamji, Haroons, B.M. Abu Bakr, and others. In the 1960s, about 1,50,000 Memons, or approximately half of the community, was living in Pakistan. True, the Memons were then only 0.16% of the population, but the proportion of rich people, especially the elite class, was much higher in Memons. Every fourth private factory or plant in Pakistan belonged to Memons. The 22 families that were listed as the richest families of Pakistan, out of them 7 were of Memon. The identity of Memons is not fixated with a certain land or language as it has been with Punjabi or Sindhi people. Despite being from Kutch, or as a matter of fact from Thatta, many Memons never lived there. Traveling has been a constant in their lives to reap profits, thus they never settled onto one land where they associated themselves with the land. Moreover, being a product of capitalism, they abide by the rules of it religiously. They observe land and everything from a monetary lens rather than a sentimental. Thus, their life's focal point is based on opportunity cost and profit maximization. The identity stands upon their lifestyle. To this day, we find Memons ruling over Pakistan's private sector, where they have transcended their horizon beyond textile and sugar mills and banks to even to the IT sector. We can find Memons in any possible business we can think of. The simple rule is that wherever there is profit, you'll find a Memon there. The statement overrules physical space, expertise, or hard work. They can put everything online if it reaps out profit. From a tea hotel like Fibby to a mega MNC like Angro is owned by Memons. Now, time to explain their concept of charity. Now, why would someone earn to not spend but to give? It's the same as you're digging a hole every day and filling it up. You get nothing out of it but just the hard work. Well, it's true that Memons do not spend, but it's also true that they do not waste. They are really frugal. If you guys have read the book Poor Dad and Rich Dad, then it's a mere reflection of the Memon lifestyle. They go with the zero waste policy in terms of everything in life. If they can commute comfortably on a small car, then they will and won't buy an expensive vehicle. If they need a vehicle for traveling to remote areas, then they will go for an expensive Jeep. They go with their purpose rather than status. They won't keep anything excess in their life. People purchase their wants, and Memons gauge the marginal utility for every purchase. They question every purchase they make, thus, this allows them to indoctrinate self accountability into themselves. This lifestyle of saving every penny creates a sense of empathy and sympathy for others. If you cherish every penny you earn and spend, then you have a heart to give as well. If you are too consumed in the world that you're waiting for the next iPhone, then your focus cannot be on giving. It's my theory, thus, it might be wrong and it might be correct as well. I believe from what I have read up till now, their constant migration for new ventures didn't allow them to keep a wasteful lifestyle. They must have kept their essentials for their constant traveling. The more they buy, they will have to leave it behind. There are some common questions and confusions regarding Memons. The first and foremost and the most famous question of all is, why don't Memons consider themselves as Mohajers? Well, they consider themselves as businessmen only. Their experience of partition was quite different from other people. Reason being, their decision was a calculated one. It was an entrepreneurial decision. It wasn't based on patriotism. Reason being, their areas didn't face that much riots or upheavals. Moreover, their lifestyle kept them migrating in their entire life. Thus, for them, migrating was another opportunity ahead. Where did khause come from? Well, for most of you who don't know, khause is a dish specifically made in Memni households. Now, it's not a Memni invention. Their habit of traveling kept them settling in different areas. Many of the Memons had settled in Burma. From there on, they picked up this dish and brought it in Pakistan as well when they migrated over here. Why is their language similar to Sindhi? Well, their history tells that itself. They had settled between the area of Kutch and as of today Thatta. They picked up their language from there. Their difference in dialect is due to their traveling, which modified their language similar to Gujarati. Which top businesses Memons own in Pakistan? Well, there are a number of businesses that are owned by Memons, and if we start counting them, then this day won't be enough to complete the list. To list a few are Angro, Gulemed, Bonanza, Cambridge Garments, Jerry's International, McDonald's, KFC, Pacola, Lucky Cement, Lucky One, ICI, Eunice Brothers, Descon, Dollins, Nixer College, Fibby Tea, Kia Motors, Surmawala Electronics, BMW Divan Motors, Systems Limited, ARY, AKD Securities, and Hupco. Please don't forget to like our video and subscribe our channel for more content.